10 gamble, 9 lose. This damn thing isn't a secret at all, it's an iron law. But the strange thing is, even though people know it deep down, before stepping into the casino, they tell themselves, "I'll play a few hands and bail, keep it small, just for fun." And the result? The air in that casino is like it's been drugged. The moment the chips clatter, and the dealer pushes and deals the cards, that bit of rationality in their brain is like it's been hit by an electromagnetic pulse cannon, instantly evaporating completely. What's left? Only that one thought. One more hand. This hand is definitely the one that turns things around. They are so contradictory. On one hand, knowing this is a dead end, yet on the other, as if possessed, time and again they put their fortune and life on the line. What the hell is pushing us forward? Why, amidst those dazzling lights and the crisp sound of dice hitting the table, do we willingly step by step walk towards that destined to lose outcome? Logically, gambling to a normal person makes no sense at all. Exchange money for a pile of less money? Who would do that? Yet in casinos, this kind of foolishness happens every minute of every day. Take roulette, for example. American roulette, besides the red and black numbers, somehow has an extra 0 and 00. You bet on red, and if it hits, you double your money. How great! But if it lands on black or worse, the screwed up 0 and 00, all the money you bet goes completely down the drain. On the surface, red and black probabilities seem about equal, but those two 0 and 00 are the trap set by the casino for you. Without them, it's 50-50 win/lose. With them, your chance of winning double instantly drops to 47.37%. Don't underestimate this mere few percentage points. Casinos worldwide rely on this tiny insignificant advantage to rake in trillions of dollars each year. And that's not even counting the under-the-counter underground casinos and online gambling platforms. Those sons of bitches are even darker. They'll eat you alive. How many people's lives are completely ruined by them this way? The power of this thing lies in the fact that it utilizes the coldest, most precise mathematics. Every game designed by a casino, from the simplest slot machines and roulette to the seemingly complex blackjack and baccarat, has a fixed house edge behind it. This is the asymmetry brought by mathematical probability. A slot machine's set return to player, RTP, maybe it tells you 95%. Sounds pretty high, right? But it means that in the long run, for every $100 you put in, you can, on average, only get back $95. Where did that $5 go? Into the casino's pocket. Baccarat might seem to have close player/banker probabilities, but if the banker wins, there's a commission, and this commission is part of the house edge. Not to mention bets with extremely low payouts, like betting on a single number in roulette with a 35-1 payout. But there are actually 37 or 38 possible outcomes, depending on whether there's a 0-0. The mathematical expectation is far, far below 1. The casino is like a giant sieve. You throw money in, it passes through, and a part of it always gets sifted out, staying with the house. The more you play, the more money you put in, the more gets sifted out. But why? Knowing full well that 10 gamble, 9 lose. Are people still so eager? Knowing it's a losing business, they still willingly jump in? Man, you gotta look for the reason in ourselves, in this damn human nature. All those theories in books saying that people are rational, that they'll weigh pros and cons and make choices, it's all nonsense. What truly manipulates us at the gambling table isn't numbers and probability at all. It's emotion, it's psychology, especially that deadly loss aversion. The pain of losing money is much greater than the pleasure of winning. It's gut-wrenching. If you ask someone to choose between a guaranteed $50 or an 80% chance to take $62.50, most people will choose the guaranteed $50. Why? Fear of losing, even if the opportunity to earn more money is right in front of them. As long as there's a risk of losing, they get nervous, preferring to take a bit less for the sake of security. You see this, fearing loss more than desiring gain, drive clearly when people buy insurance. Car owners pay thousands in premiums every year. Do you think the chance of a major accident is high? No. But just to prevent that what if of a big financial hole, they willingly shell out the money. And insurance companies? They play on probability and the law of large numbers. They've got it all figured out, making a steady profit without losing. The funny thing is, this drive often makes us overestimate risk and underestimate gain. But in a casino, once a gambler wins on a bet, they subjectively perceive this money as money in hand. However, when they start losing in the next round, people feel deeply that their money is being taken away, so they can't help but want to bet more or take another gamble, hoping to win back the part they just lost. The result is sinking deeper and deeper, to the point where they can't pull themselves out. That unwillingness to accept loss, regret, and anger after losing burns in your heart like a fire. The only thought is, get it back. Get it back now. What rationality is there left at that point? Their mind is buzzing, eyes only on the chips, hands wanting to bet more without their conscious command, heart pounding like it's about to leap out. Their whole body is controlled by the impulse to chase back what's been lost. This chasing state is the time when gamblers are most likely to head towards ruin, because the bets placed are no longer based on thought, but completely hijacked by emotion. People get addicted to gambling, often captured by some strange psychological effects, one of which is the inexplicable craving for extremely low probability, high reward events. This craving is intertwined with our greed and curiosity, making us hesitate between a 100% chance of getting $50 or a 25% chance of winning $200, not to mention gambling games with only a 0.5% possibility, but the chance to win massive prizes. Extremely low probability gambling, like the lottery, often makes ordinary people fantasize. Hitting the jackpot once, their life might be completely changed. But they often forget that their probability of hitting the jackpot is smaller than the probability of being struck by lightning. Even so, the idea of buying a few lottery tickets or betting on an underdog team still frequently appears in life. It can be said that this illusion of getting rich overnight is deeply intertwined with humanity's centuries-old craving for wealth, hard to eradicate. The casino is a place that sells hope, but it sells that almost impossible, illusory hope. And the price is your real hard-earned money. In a real casino environment, the stimulation, lighting effects, the dealer's smile, and the cheers of people around constantly deepen the gambler's sense of involvement. The sound and atmosphere design in casinos are often based on professional psychological research. For example, the rhythm of the background music, the electronic sound effects of the machines, and the speed at which the dealer deals cards can all subtly guide gamblers to continue betting. These methods, coupled with payout games where being off by a hair can lead to huge gains, further amplify the gambler's excitement and sense of relying on chance. In such an environment, people often develop a wrong perception of probability, believing that as long as they persist until the next hand, or catch the right moment, they can turn things around. In fact, every independent betting action does not increase the probability of winning just because you've lost a certain number of hands in a row before. The idea that I've lost so much, it must be my turn to win this time, is nothing more than the typical gambler's fallacy. You think you've seen patterns, seen the way, but those are all illusions. A random event is a random event. It has no memory, no pattern. The patterns you see are just things you've forced your brain to imagine within the randomness, like seeing animals in the clouds. Even more noteworthy is that the casino's exploitation of human weaknesses doesn't stop there. Some gamblers believe they are very knowledgeable about a certain game and can beat the house based on experience, which is also a typical illusion of control. In games like blackjack or Texas Hold'em that seemingly require a certain degree of skill, there is certainly a degree of strategy and probability analysis. However, in most cases, the casino still retains a certain advantage or takes a commission. even if it seems like a showdown between players, like Texas Hold'em. In actual operation, the casino makes stable profits through rake, table fees, and other methods. Among the players, some may win, but overall, the majority of participants ultimately have to pay the price for this game. Gambling methods that make people feel they can win by thinking are often the most dangerous. The reason is that players might firmly believe they can win by skill, thereby lowering their guard against losses, and still stubbornly persist even after losing to a certain extent. You think you're in control of the situation. You think your skills can conquer everything. That's exactly what the casino wants you to think. Only if you think you can win by skill will you bet bigger and sink deeper. They're not afraid of you winning a few hands. They're afraid of you not playing. The reason casinos can remain profitable in the long term is also inseparable from the famous law of large numbers in mathematics. This law tells us that the results of random events, after a large number of repetitions, will show patterns that are extremely close to the theoretical probability. When rolling dice thousands or tens of thousands of times, the probability of rolling a 6 will infinitely approach 1/6. Similarly, the red/black probability on the roulette wheel will also gradually reveal its true win/loss ratio. For a casino with a massive volume of games and theoretically infinite betting time, gamblers may experience multiple consecutive wins or losses in a relatively short time. But as more and more participants join, and the roulette wheel spins more and more times, that tiny bit of casino's payout advantage will reveal its power through the law of large numbers, allowing the casino's overall revenue to grow steadily. For gamblers with limited chips, the gambler's ruin theorem points out that as long as you gamble indefinitely, the result is heading towards bankruptcy. No matter how much the player's bankroll fluctuates, there will always be that one hand that makes them lose all their principal, while the casino has the ability to keep waiting and enduring. This is the asymmetrical position. To put it simply, the casino is like a giant sieve. You throw money in, it passes through, and a part of it always gets sifted out, staying in the sieve, while the rest that bounces out gets sifted countless more times. Your small amount of capital simply cannot withstand being sifted like this indefinitely. Winning is just random fluctuations in the process. Losing is the inevitable trend in the long run. Returning to the perspective of human nature, loss aversion is one of the significant roots that drives gamblers to sink deeper. When a gambler wins a few rounds initially, they mistakenly think they have skill, have luck, and can replicate this victory on a larger scale. However, no matter how brilliant the skill, it cannot counteract the cumulative effect brought by the payout difference. House edge. Once they start losing, it's hard for gamblers to remain rational because they feel that the money they've already won is being mercilessly taken away. At this point, people often constantly increase bets due to greed or unwillingness to accept loss, hoping to make up for the losses through a single double-down bet, ultimately gambling away everything. Especially when psychological pressure increases and emotions fluctuate intensely, judgment ability and rational control will significantly decrease, making people more likely to make aggressive, even crazy decisions. In casinos, it's not uncommon to see gamblers with distorted faces after losing money, gritting their teeth as they put their last chips on the line, with the mindset of, take a chance, maybe a miracle will happen. But a miracle, after all, is just an event with extremely low probability. That idea of, take a chance, often sends your last bit of opportunity to turn things around into the casino's fiery pit. When you've lost everything and are utterly broke, you'll realize that miracles never happen for fools like you. Even more terrifying, modern casinos aren't just traditional physical luxury venues. Online gambling is also expanding at an astonishing speed. Many large gaming companies and underground platforms set up a dazzling array of gambling options online. From sports events and esports to live dealer baccarat and roulette, and a wide variety of slot machine games. These online platforms make gambling more hidden and convenient. As long as you have internet and an account balance, you can bet around the clock, even on your mobile phone, anytime, anywhere. The harm of online gambling is deeper, not just because its barrier to entry is lower, but also because it uses big data analysis and targeted marketing to make people harder to break free. Once you deposit and start playing, the platform will continuously recommend more exciting, higher payout games based on your betting habits and win/loss data. Many platforms offer large amounts of free chips or bonus money when new users register, making people feel they can play a few hands without much cost. Once they get a small taste of sweetness or get lucky and win a few times, they lose vigilance and blindly continue to bet more. Gradually, people get trapped in the algorithmic vortex set by the platform. Online gambling platforms also utilize the game's instant feedback and reward mechanism to make you quickly switch emotions between winning and losing, especially the stimulation of lights, sounds, and visuals on slot machines. Every spin gives you the illusion of almost, or maybe this time, greatly enhancing the game's addictiveness. Furthermore, online gambling platforms make you face a computer or phone alone, without the supervision and dissuasion of others nearby, making it easier to lose track of time, playing for hours or even days and nights, completely isolated from reality. Beyond the gambling table, gamblers often have to face a more painful reality. Once they become deeply addicted, they will quickly overdraw savings and even borrow from loan sharks or max out credit cards. Some people become gambling slaves, focusing only on odds, horse races, lottery, and card games, with their attention to family, friends, and work significantly decreasing. Gambling addiction severely impacts mental health, leading to anxiety, depression, insomnia, and even triggering more extreme emotions and behaviors. Some people burdened by gambling debt have to turn to crime or get entangled with lenders, ultimately harming themselves and their family. The tragedies of families breaking up, even wives and children being separated, frequently appear in society and are not uncommon. In the past, we might have only heard about such cases in newspapers or on television, but if you ask people around you carefully, you will be surprised to find that many people have more or less been involved in gambling, and those who personally ruined their lives and futures are not just stranger faces in the news. How many originally happy families have fallen apart because one person got involved in gambling? How many young people with bright futures have dropped out of school, lost jobs, or even ended up in prison because of gambling? How many elderly people who saved up their retirement money through a lifetime of hard work lose it bit by bit into the casino, either by their children or themselves? These are not just stories. They are real tragedies happening around us. Why are we so vulnerable when faced with gambling? Besides the psychological traps brought by loss aversion, it is also related to people being overly superstitious about personal experience and ignoring the truth of probability. Many people firmly believe, I know a lot about this team or horse, I can accurately predict the result, not realizing that games have too many uncontrollable factors, and while players may have some information, they ignore that randomness is the essence of sports. Others are obsessed with the illusion of my good luck is coming. Winning a few hands means today is my lucky day. Having no concept of probability and statistics, you should know that short-term winning streaks are just a wave in the ocean in long-term statistics, and cannot fundamentally shake the casino's overall revenue structure. The more superstitious you are about having a winning streak, the more likely you are to lose miserably. This blind self-confidence, coupled with ignorance of probability, is the most common affliction of gamblers. They would rather believe they are the chosen one than believe cold mathematics and facts. Let's also look at the many systems or strategies commonly used by gamblers. The most common is the martingale strategy, which is the double-down betting method. Lose a hand, double the bet on the next. Theoretically, as long as you win once, You can recover all previous losses and even make a small profit. But this is based on the assumption of infinite capital and infinite betting rounds. In reality, gamblers first have limited capital. Second, casinos often set maximum betting limits, and some casinos will even actively interfere with gamblers on winning streaks or excessive betting. The result is that when a gambler hits a prolonged losing streak, they will run out of funds or hit the limit at some point, unable to continue doubling, leading to all illusions of turning things around being shattered. This strategy also makes people numb to their financial situation, mistakenly believing that as long as they dare to double down, luck will eventually be on their side. But the truth is, losing 10+ hands in a row is not at all impossible. The world is full of so-called low-probability, high-disaster events. For example, in roulette, a streak of 15 or 20 consecutive hits of the same color, while statistically rare, is not zero. Once it happens, the gambler using the double-down method will instantly face a financial chain break. And the casino? It's not afraid at all, because it has plenty of money to weather such low-probability fluctuations. So, this seemingly scientific strategy, in the face of a real casino, is nothing more than a catalyst to accelerate your demise. Some people might say, I just play the lottery occasionally, I don't gamble big. Well, I also 10 gamble, 9 lose. In fact, from the perspective of probability theory, whether it's baccarat, roulette, blackjack in a casino or sports betting, horse racing, lottery, or slot machines, they all operate based on the fundamental principles of statistics and house edge. Even some poker games or mahjong matches that require more skill may be affected by dealer commissions or unfair practices like bots. Overall, players lose more than they win is the high probability outcome. Lottery jackpot probability is often 1 in several million or even tens of millions. This is an event on the level of Arabian Nights. However, people harboring the illusion of getting rich overnight still come in a continuous stream, and they often magnify their expectation of luck while buying lottery tickets, ignoring the money invested, replaying the happy scene of winning the jackpot in their minds countless times. The result is like moths flying into a flame, increasing their bets time and again. Commercial society precisely utilizes this psychological need, which is why various types of lottery and gambling products are booming globally. They aren't selling lottery tickets. They're selling that dream of getting rich in your heart. You spent money buying a dream, giving the money to the house. What do you call that if not losing? Someone else might say, I don't look like I've gambled away everything. I just play a couple of hands occasionally. Indeed, hundreds of millions of people worldwide have been or are involved in various forms of gambling, and most people initially think they can control it and are just playing for entertainment, that they won't get addicted. But unfortunately, the threshold of temptation is often triggered unknowingly. Once they win a large prize, it creates an intense sense of excitement and psychological suggestion. I've won before. This confidence might make people dare to bet more and invest more in gambling later. At the same time, if they ever suffered a painful loss of a large sum of money, they will always remember this unforgettable regret, thereby embarking on a path of crazy attempts to turn things around. And the reason gamblers are called gamblers is that long-term gambling makes it difficult to make correct stop-loss decisions. Even the most rational person, once swept away by intense emotions, will make out-of-the-ordinary moves at the gambling table. The process from occasionally playing a few hands to complete addiction is often gradual, like chronic poisoning. It doesn't make you immediately alert like an acute illness, but slowly erodes your time and money, erodes your will and emotions. By the time you realize the seriousness of the problem, you are often already deeply stuck, unable to pull yourself out. Furthermore, gambling is not entirely confined to the monetary level. It has inextricable links to the adventurous spirit in human nature, the curiosity about the unknown of fate, and even the challenge to one's own abilities. In ancient times, soldiers gambled with their lives, merchants with their wealth, and writers and artists also created stories and characters about gambling. When Japanese writers depict gamblers, they often talk about the impulse to seek self-validation in extreme pressure and pleasure. Because of this, gambling can temporarily free people from the shackles of ordinary life, giving them the illusion of being able to grasp destiny. However, this is ultimately just a flower in a mirror, the moon in water. After the brief passion, more people face heavy debt, endless anxiety, and fear for the future. Many gamblers who look back will sigh, lamenting that if they could have just stopped in time, if they could have maintained a bit of clarity, if they could have invested the gambling money in more meaningful things, the outcome would have been completely different. The feeling of seeking to control destiny at the gambling table is essentially an illusion of escaping reality. The difficulties and challenges in real life require you to invest real effort and wisdom to solve them, while gambling offers you a false shortcut, an illusion that seems capable of changing your destiny overnight. But the price of this illusion is one you cannot afford. To truly be invincible in a gambling game, the only way is not to gamble, because the fundamental logic of the casino's existence is lose eventually, and human nature itself is vulnerable when faced with gambling. It's not that gamblers lack willpower, and it's not necessarily that they aren't smart. It's that the casino utilizes the law of large numbers and human weaknesses, putting every gambler in a disadvantageous position on the scale of probability. Some people will say, then if I just gamble small occasionally, win big, and leave, wouldn't that be fine? Theoretically, doing so seems feasible, but regardless of whether you can truly resist the temptation of the bright lights and lavishness around the gambling table, even if you win for a time, it's hard to guarantee you won't lose it all back in the next hand. Most of the time, people think they can handle it and let go, but eventually, they find that in the face of desire and addiction, our rationality seems exceptionally vulnerable. The idea of winning one hand and leaving is the initial thought of almost all gamblers, and the thing they regret most not doing after losing everything. But why can't they do it? Because of the greed and unwillingness to accept loss in human nature. Because of the stimulation and temptation at the gambling table, their power is far beyond what you can imagine. Staying away from gambling is actually protecting ourselves. Many countries and regions are strengthening control over the gambling industry, such as restricting the opening of casinos, severely cracking down on underground gambling, and setting personal credit risk thresholds. They are also promoting the establishment of gambling counseling centers and psychological counseling agencies so that those who fall into the quagmire of gambling can seek help. As society's understanding of the harm of gambling gradually deepens, increasing numbers of success stories show that only by truly seeing through the essence of gambling, deeply understanding its operation and the weaknesses of human nature, can one effectively resist its temptation. Some specialized organizations and professionals use cognitive therapy and behavioral therapy to help gamblers re-understand their gambling behavior, teaching them to record and analyze their betting habits, identify when they are prone to impulsive betting, and then develop avoidance and stop-loss strategies. The ultimate goal is to make gamblers understand that to completely quit gambling, they must first admit to themselves, I cannot get rich at the gambling table, nor can I remain rational in a casino environment. Only this way can they truly break off illusions about gambling. This is a long and painful process, requiring great courage and perseverance, and even more so, support from family, friends, and professionals. Quitting gambling is not just about quitting an action. It's about rebuilding your life, rebuilding your values, and rebuilding your relationship with the world. Looking back at the various tactics of gambling, what we see is a form of exploiting human nature. From glittering gambling tables to easy and convenient online platforms, from the castle in the sky of extremely low probability, high return, to the trap of constantly doubling down and sinking deeper, all of it transmits a dangerous suggestion to the gambler. Just keep going, and you can turn your destiny around. And in reality, this suggestion mostly vanishes like bubbles. The casino doors are always open because it knows that as long as enough people keep coming in, odds and mathematical laws will ensure it makes a steady profit without losing. For ordinary people, we cannot always find shortcuts in the constantly changing landscape of life. And we especially should not fantasize about betting small to win big in a game of probability. You should know that while doubling down, risk is also doubling. While craving overnight riches, your debt might also snowball out of control. That bet small to win big mentality is exactly what the casino likes most. They lure you with the illusion of low probability, high return, making you ignore the huge risks and the tiny hope, ultimately turning your small money into their huge profits. From another perspective, the hidden costs of gambling are often heavier than the loss of money. Whether it's the consumption of personal time and energy or the impact on family, social life, and career, these can be irreparable losses. Some studies show that heavy gamblers often cannot balance work and family. Broken marriages, neglected child education, or even turning friends and family against each other are possible chain reactions. Gamblers might ignore their children's tuition fees to try to win back money. They might mortgage their house, but still can't stop the bleeding. They might even take reckless risks by using company funds or friends' loans for gambling, ultimately harming themselves and others. In comparison, the temporary pleasure gained at the casino seems insignificant. People often say gambling is addictive because it has similar physiological and psychological mechanisms to addictive substances like drugs and alcohol. In the moment of winning streak at the gambling table, the brain releases dopamine, making people feel highly satisfied. Once they lose, people experience immense frustration and want to place more bets to get rid of this discomfort. This alternating positive and negative stimulation is the root of the addiction cycle. This pathological pursuit of stimulation will ultimately make you lose interest in the joys of normal life. Only gambling can bring you that extreme experience. Perhaps some people will try responsible gambling, telling themselves that as long as they control the amount and set strict limits for themselves, they won't sink too deep. Indeed, some people can maintain relative restraint, trying a bit of recreational gambling while sightseeing or socializing, and it won't cause significant financial risk or psychological problems. But if we recognize that gambling is full of human traps everywhere, we will understand how dangerous this so-called entertainment is. Stories of once started, it's hard to stop, in gambling are everywhere. Those gambling king legends, and someone won millions overnight, circulating in the streets, often end in a dismal outcome. The so-called lucky ones are just a tiny fraction in probability statistics. Many people only see their temporary glory, but don't see the figures of many more people going bankrupt behind the scenes. Gambling is like Pandora's box. Once opened, the evil and disaster within will pour out, and the hope left at the bottom of the box is often illusory. You never know if you are the person who can control not opening the box, or the person who can close it after opening it. For the vast majority of ordinary people, the best choice is to never touch that box. When we look at the people who truly win in casinos, we find that they are often not the gamblers sitting at the table, but the people who own casino property or operators running illegal offshore gambling. They are casually collecting commissions, using the fantasies and sense of relying on chance of countless gamblers to build a siege of huge profits. They manipulate the game of probability behind the scenes, steadily harvesting every gambler who harbors illusions. You playing against them is like fighting a fully armed army with a toy gun. The outcome is predetermined from the start. For the vast majority of ordinary people, to live a more stable, happier life, they can only rely on down-to-earth work and real investment, rather than pinning hope on a few hands at the casino or a few lottery drawings. While the temptation of gambling is certainly strong, it is ultimately just a bubble. Many survivors' testimonials are all warning us. Behind the most glamorous casino lights might be a dark abyss. The loudest sound of chips hitting the table might be a harbinger of a shattered life. Finally, returning to that sharp and simple question, after seeing all this, will you still choose to gamble? If you don't want to pay a heavy price, you should remain highly vigilant towards gambling. You might achieve some insignificant profits in the short term, but this can hardly change the long-term outcome of inevitable loss. All the mechanisms designed by the casino, from the exquisite arrangement of odds to the luxurious and alluring environmental design, are meant to make gamblers gamble for longer and bet more without realizing it. As long as the house keeps the games running, the law of large numbers will turn that tiny bit of odds advantage into huge profits, and every gambler involved will ultimately be a victim of probability. Staying away from gambling is the only way to truly conquer the inner demons and avoid letting wealth and life be devoured by the gambling table. Only by truly seeing clearly the essence of how the casino operates, understanding your vulnerable position in the gambling game, and resolutely refusing to step onto this path that looks like a bed of flowers but is destined to fall, can you become your own master in the future. Remember, once human weakness is tamed by the casino, there's no turning back. Every bet you place against the casino today, while seemingly just a small speculation, is actually handing over your time, money, and even destiny to an abyss manipulated by mathematical laws and human weaknesses. May every clear-headed person open their eyes wide, jump out of this cycle of reincarnation/trap, and put their efforts into things that are more worth investing in. That is the path where you can truly see hope and light. Stop gambling, brother. Stop using your precious life to feed that never-satisfied probability machine. That path is a dead end. There's no exit, only an abyss.